Hello out there, everyone. Dane here from Moving to Canada. I'm here going live on this wonderful Monday afternoon to bring you guys the results from the latest Express Entry draw. That's right, even though it's a Monday and that's not a normal day for Express Entry draws, we've just had the latest draw results come in. So I'm going to go through everything that we know about today's Express Entry draw, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the state of Express Entry in 2021, because it's been a bit of a weird year for Express Entry for those of you who have been following along with Express Entry draws for the last few months. If you are tuning in, please drop me a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We're always curious to hear where our community members are watching from. And if you have any questions about Express Entry, about the draw results that we're going over today, or any questions related to Canadian immigration, drop them right there in the comment section. I am following along, and I will answer a few of your questions here at the end of the video. I'm also going to pop a link right there into the comment section for the full Express Entry draw reporting on the Moving to Canada website. So if you're one of those people who prefers to go in and read all the different tables and look at all the past draw results, you can click the link right there in the pinned comment to get all of that information. And I see some questions coming in already, so I will come back and answer those, but let's jump into the draw results for today. I'm just going to pull up our reporting on the Moving to Canada website, so you can see here the latest figures for the March 8th Express Entry draw. So that is today's Express Entry draw. Today's draw was restricted to candidates with provincial nominations. That means only those of you who have successfully been nominated after you applied to a provincial nominee program, or a PNP. Only those people were eligible for today's draw. As such, what we typically see when it's a PNP restricted draw is a relatively low number of invitations, and we see that today it was only 671 invitations to apply. And usually the CRS score is quite high in these draws because provincial nominees get an extra 600 points added to their CRS scores, and we saw that today with the CRS score cutoff sitting up at 739 points. So we did note here, this is the first Express Entry draw that we've seen take place since we call it the Mammoth Canadian Experience Class, or CEC draw, that took place last month in February. Probably most of you are aware of this, but in February we saw a draw where every single Canadian Experience Class candidate in the pool, every single one, received an invitation to apply. So that was more than 27,000 invitations to apply issued in a single draw. As such, we actually were kind of unclear as to when the next draw would take place. They invited, more than 5 times higher than the previous all-time record for invitations issued in a single draw. So we didn't know if they were going to take a break or what exactly was going to happen. And they did take a bit of a break here, as we saw today. It's been almost a month since that Mammoth draw took place in February, and they've come back, and things aren't quite back to normal yet. So you'll see our reporting here. We're asking the question, when will Express Entry draws get back to normal? And honestly, it's a really hard question to answer. As you'll see if you read through our reporting here, it's been a weird year so far for Express Entry. In January, all of the draws that happened were restricted to Canadian Experience Class candidates or candidates with provincial nominations. Back in February last month, as I already mentioned, we had this sort of record-shattering Express Entry draw for Canadian Experience Class candidates. And now that we're in March, we are once again seeing an Express Entry draw that is only open to candidates who have successfully applied through a provincial nominee program. Um, so if you are a PNP candidate or a CEC candidate, you're probably not too worried about this. Things are looking all right for you. But as we note here, the question about when will things get back to normal is especially important to federal skilled worker candidates out there and federal skilled trades candidates who, unless they were eligible through a PNP or also eligible through the CEC program, they haven't been considered yet in a draw in 2021. So it's an important question to try to answer, but as we frequently say in our videos like this, it's impossible for us to predict what IRCC is going to do in future draws. Um, we did note a couple of things here. There are some positive things to look at in Canadian immigration. First of all, Canada's COVID vaccination campaign is really starting to accelerate. So I've pulled up a couple of resources here just for those of you who are curious. This is the COVID-19 vaccination tracker for Canada, so you can see how many doses have been administered. We're up to almost 5% of the Canadian population, which, depending on what countries you're comparing to, isn't might not be that impressive, but they are saying that it's really started ramping up over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And then I pulled open just a couple of headlines here from just the past day or two. Canada set to receive nearly 1 million COVID vaccine doses this week. I think that's either a record or pretty much tied for the record of vaccine distribution so far in the pandemic. We're supposed to get 8 million vaccine doses by the end of March, which is up from original projections of 6 million. And then this is something that's quite fascinating. As the provinces are accelerating the COVID vaccination rollout, they're also moving up their vaccination targets. So you'll see here in this subheading, the person in charge of Ontario's immunization plan expressed optimism that all adults could receive their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine by June 20th. And we've seen that mirrored a few premiers from different provinces in Canada, Nova Scotia, British Columbia, I think there are a few others, have expressed the possibility that all adults who want a vaccine could have at least one dose by the end of June, which is much earlier than they had initially projected. So things are moving up, but one thing that we do note in our express entry reporting is that there's no guarantee that mass vaccination will cause express entry to return to its previous patterns. We have seen Canada take on a number of different tactics to prioritize people who are living in Canada during the pandemic. And it's possible that once, all the travel restrictions are lifted and people can get to and from Canada from other countries more easily, that they might use that as a motive to invite more FSW and FST candidates. But we're hesitant to say that is for sure going to happen, that those things are necessarily correlated. But it's one thing to watch out for sure. Another thing, point of optimism, is that it's worth bearing in mind that Canada continues to try to achieve its most ambitious immigration targets on record for 2021. More than 400,000 new permanent residents are targeted to be admitted this year, so that's the highest immigration targets on record. So simply because the targets are so high, we do anticipate that Canada will continue to do very large immigration intakes in order to hopefully succeed at meeting those goals. Again, there's no guarantee that those intakes will target FSW and FST candidates, or that those intakes will simply return back to pre-pandemic patterns, but just with a higher bottom line. But it's something to watch out, and it's one of the variables at play in our current express entry situation. So those are a few of the optimistic pieces of information that we have been watching here. Again, if you want full details about the express entry draw today, if you want to read through this reporting for yourself with all of the sources, you can simply click the link in the pinned comment. The one other source that I wanted to pull up here is the COVID-19 news feed on the Moving to Canada website. You'll see that despite the fact that vaccinations are accelerating in Canada, we do in fact still have some of the most strict travel restrictions in place that Canada has had since the start of the pandemic. That includes, restrictions on who can enter and also what you have to do when you are traveling to Canada. Like if you're entering by air, you now need to get a pre-departure COVID-19 test. So before you board your flight, you have to get a COVID test when you arrive at the airport, and then you're going to be given another COVID test to take home with you, where you complete the rest of your 14-day quarantine. So you're taking 3 COVID-19 tests if you're traveling to Canada by air right now. So they're really being quite strict, and hopefully that's something that we'll see start to loosen and lighten a little bit later in the year when mass vaccination is achieved here in Canada. So here, I'll close that window there, and let me return back to our comment section and see if we've got any questions coming through here. I see. So Mary Joy is asking, traditionally a PNP draw is followed by a CEC draw. So do you think this will happen again this week? So that is definitely a great observation, Mary Joy. I'm going to pull open our Express Entry draw page here, and we've got the recent Express Entry draw results, and you'll see, even if I just go back to the start of 2021, we had a PNP draw and then a CEC draw, PNP draw, CEC draw, PNP draw. Yeah, so that is a common pattern. However, there's a significant variable at play here, and that's the fact that on February 13th, 27,000 CEC candidates were invited. That's every CEC candidate who is in the pool. So they may well skip the CEC draw this time around, simply because they invited, essentially the entire pool of CEC candidates less than a month ago, or they might decide that they just want to always keep that pool of candidates close to zero, at least for the coming months. We'll get a better sense of that in the next couple of days, Mary Joy, so you can keep following our Facebook page, because of course if there is another draw this week in the next few days, we will post about that on our website, and we'll also go live again to bring you the latest results. A few more questions. Katie is asking, do you know when the IEC results will be going out? So for those of you who aren't familiar, IEC is a completely separate Canadian immigration program to Express Entry. It's for youth from participating countries who want to get temporary work permits in Canada. Katie, a lot of IEC pools began issuing invitations today. We've seen, we run like an IEC Facebook group, and I just saw within the past hour, people are starting to post about receiving their invitations. IEC likely won't post the official results until later this week. They usually post like, this is how many people are still in the pools, this is how many invitations were issued so far, that sort of thing. But invitations have started to be issued for some of the participating pools. Okay. And Dara's asking any prediction for FSW. So again, we don't know when the next FSW draw will take place. I went through a couple of the variables at play a little bit earlier. One thing that I will pull up here, just because I didn't screencast this before, is the CRS score distribution of candidates. So you can see we're down to about 147,000 candidates in the Express Entry pool. I just updated this from where it was at after the February 13th draw. Interestingly, it's only like 6,000 or 7,000 candidates fewer than it was just before the massive CEC draw, which means we've had a lot of people entering the pool over the past month. But when I was filling out this chart, I did notice that a lot of the candidates who were entering were in that range below the 400 points threshold. So we had a lot of people entering in those lower ranges, and a lot of the those upper ranges, 420, 430, 440 and higher. The number of candidates sitting in those CRS score thresholds are lower than they were a month ago prior to that CEC draw. So that's good news if they do an FSW draw here in the near future, that there are fewer candidates up in those higher thresholds to compete for the invitations. But again, that's a pretty big caveat. That's an if they come back and do more. FSW draws in the near future. Great. So I think that about answers it for most of the questions here. Again, if you are looking for more information, I'd advise you to click the link right there in the pinned comment where you can get more details, all the details, and read that article that I've been screencasting for most of this live video. And that is where we will report new express entry draw results once they come in. So Mary Joy, you might want to pay attention to that link for the duration of the week. Quick recap of the draw results for people who might have missed them at the beginning. We had an express entry draw take place earlier today. It is March 8th. I'm just going to screencast it here. As you'll see here, it was restricted to candidates with provincial nominations. 671 ITAs were issued with a minimum CRS score cutoff of 739 points. It's a Monday, so a bit of a weird day for an express entry draw, so it's tough for us to predict when the next one will take place. But if you continue to follow us on Facebook, we will, of course, go live next time that we do have draw results. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.